It is provocative to return to the Garden of Eden, which is what the Galapagos represents, and to understand better the origin of species. We met people with similar interests to ours, understanding our natural world better. How did Darwin come up with this startling idea? Darwin began his journey, which would lead to a completely new understanding of how variations in life developed in 1832. We used a much more modern ship for our travel, and we had advantages he did not have. We start the journey in the town of Quito, Ecuador, where we're amazed to find out that there was a tremendous Incan civilization here long before Darwin or any humans came. But far to the west of Ecuador lay this incredible, enchanted, isolated archipelago of islands called the Galapagos, which is where the most modern theory of fertility and extinction developed. Darwin concluded that it was natural selection and survival of the fittest that resulted in the origin of different forms of life, not need, or in truth what appears to be adaptation. That is what would occur over millions of years, natural variation among individuals of species, and those variations which by chance were advantageous would survive, and those without these favorable variations would die out. Darwin could not have known in 1835 about genes and mutating or mutation rates, so how did he even dare to imagine that adaptations did not occur out of need, which was Lamarck's view, but rather from natural selection? Darwin kept a detailed log of all of his observations, and so did I, inspired by Darwin, to see whether we could find more evidence for my theory about the origin of the sex chromosomes and the extinction of the dinosaurs and animals which had only temperature-dependent sex determination. As we frolic among these seals, sea lions that is, that look like seals, as they're going through their mating rituals and the mothers are feeding their cubs and the pups are jumping all over their mothers, and everybody is frolicking and playing without a fear in the world, without a problem in the world. As we do that, we realize that Darwin, with his observations, knew the threat that his theory presented to the accepted religions of his day, and even to his own faith. According to the Bible, God just created the different species. They did not evolve randomly from natural selection. So Darwin did not consider even publishing his views for at least another 30 years when it became apparent that Wallace would come up with the same theory and beat him to it and scoop him. We always make the mistake of calling these seals because they're so comfortable in the water, but they're truly sea lions. And sea lions are always fighting for dominance. The dominant male is the one who gets to mate, who gets to form a harem, and testosterone abounds throughout the Galapagos, as it does throughout the world. And in fact, testosterone and mating and sperm production is the basis of this variation everywhere we see in the world. But Darwin couldn't have understood DNA and the fact that mutations will occur more frequently in the testes than in the ovary because of the constant churning over of new sperm. But the universal struggle for food and to reproduce that we see in all species around the planet is particularly interesting with these boobies and frigates. The boobies dive dramatically, and they can stay underwater for 3 minutes until they finally catch their fish. They put through an amazing effort to catch their fish. But then when they come up, the frigates, who have no idea how to dive or how to catch fish, will scare the boobies so much that they will steal their fish from them. But the boobies are truly beautiful, whether blue-footed like this one or the red-footed ones. They're absolutely magnificent birds and the most amazing underwater fishermen you can imagine. They are designed for diving rapidly and catching fish, and the frigates are designed for absolutely marauding and terrorizing these boobies so they can get a free meal. But the frigates are a thing of beauty when they are about to mate. And the male that has the biggest, most spectacular red neck to demonstrate to females, that's the one who gets the girl. And this will be the frigate with the most testosterone and the frigate that is the most aggressive. And these frigates will actually do whatever they can to steal a fish and to attract a female. As brilliant as Darwin's observations were on land, discovering the variations of species that had to develop from adaptation to the environment, had to develop from survival of the fittest, he never really saw the underwater life, the incredible, rich underwater life of the Galapagos, where once again, even the sharks are not predators, where all the fish live in peace, where you can just explore your fantasy under the water and feel the serenity of this amazing island where animals do struggle for food and survival, but you don't see fear and you don't see predation. The variety of fish in the Galapagos is as great as the variety of animals on land. And we cavorted with every kind, big fish, small fish, sharks. The iguanas are a very strange and archaic-looking reptile that helps us to explain our theory of the extinction of the dinosaurs. These iguanas only drink seawater, and so they would die if they didn't have a mechanism for spitting out all that salt. So it's as though they were drinking fresh water. And they can always find some food to eat anywhere on the island. But unlike the ferocious animal they look like, they're very peaceful and calm, except when males are fighting, of course, but they're vegetarians. And they have a temperature-dependent sex determination system, like the dinosaurs did and like the tortoises did. And we have to understand why the iguanas and the tortoises could survive and have an equal sex ratio despite massive changes in temperature on Earth, and why the dinosaurs could not survive when there was a massive temperature change. Oh yeah, they're fighting. Oh my gosh.
Okay, there you have a fight.
Whoa! Oh my gosh. They're really fighting each other. That testosterone is alive and well. Oh yeah, yeah. Although the iguanas certainly fight to see who gets to mate, their mating isn't very exciting. It is a very, very quiet, simple little process. The real excitement of the iguana's mating is the fight. The actual sexual intercourse is very, very calm and complacent. Now, Darwin based his entire theory on 13 different species of finches, all of which had developed different beaks and different feet in an effort to find food in its particular microenvironment that was most perfectly suited for survival. The most exciting animals to study really in the Galapagos were never really seen by Darwin, which are the giant sea turtles and the sharks. And swimming with the sea lions and with the cormorants was an amazing lesson in evolution. Here he comes. This way. These tortoises have adapted to the water so beautifully that they could not be nearly made extinct as the land tortoises were by the whalers who found them as an easy source of food. The Galapagos really is named after the turtle. There are the huge land tortoises that were almost completely made extinct by the whalers in the 1830s. And then there are the sea turtles, which have much more protection than the land turtles and abound underwater. And they really are different species. They look almost the same, giant tortoises, but they're different species adapted to a different environment. But Darwin would point out it's not really adaptation. It's a variation that was able to survive in that environment better than any other variation. So mating and eating is what survival is all about, and we were so thrilled to come across these mating manta rays. They were full of action as they were going through their mating rituals, going through the dance, going through the excitement that will ultimately lead to the copulation that will generate new young. And it was just thrilling to be among them and not to be afraid for a second they were going to hurt us, but to be in the midst of their cavorting, which at times was violent and filled with action and commotion. They would travel at amazing speeds all around us, backwards and forwards, and it seemed as though when we got into our zodiacs that we were like a toy object for them to play their little merry-go-round game, going around and going under our boat and going to the side and splashing us as they were having their mating playtime. Whoa. Here it comes. Oh, oh!
Whoa!
Ah.
Whoa! Whoa!
Oh! 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 Look at him go. We finally leave this incredible rock that attracted the giant tortoises and the sharks, and we go back to land to study the giant Galapagos land tortoise. And this is the animal that was basically hunted to extinction, nearly to extinction, by the whalers in the 1800s. The reason is that they had no fresh meat, and these animals will live with hardly any food, with no attention, and they would just pick these tortoises up and put them on the boat, and they would survive for forever, really. And they could kill them whenever they wanted on the boat and have fresh meat because they had no refrigeration, and they knew they needed some source of meat to survive on their incredibly long journeys being away from home for years. So they literally took all these tortoises, and the worst part about it was the easiest tortoises to take were the ones that went down to shore to lay their eggs. Because remember, the tortoises survived the changes in temperature 65 million years ago because they could lay their eggs according to different temperatures on the beach. And so the sailors and the whalers would pick up the females because they were the easy prey down on the beach. And the males would all be left up in the mountains where they stayed. So not only did they take a lot of the tortoises, but they made them go extinct for the very reason that temperature change made the dinosaurs go extinct. There was a selective removal of the females, and the males who were left in relatively large numbers obviously could not reproduce. So this concept is now being used by the scientists at the Galapagos to try to repopulate the island with these giant tortoises that mankind almost destroyed in what really was the Garden of Eden before we decided to enter it. The Sally Lightfoot crabs are so multicolored, with my favorite color orange, as well as red and yellow. And they're much more agile than you would think when you first look at them. They can run and they can jump, and they're bountiful all over the island. They crawl over the iguanas that are just trying to rest, and they can manage to find themselves through any rock or any crevice. And sooner or later they'll become food for some of the shorebirds. See these cormorants? They're swimming around in a mating ritual, and they're so comfortable in the water, and they absolutely cannot fly. And we know that someday, maybe 1,000,000 years from now, these cormorants that we're playing with, their descendants will be penguins. In summary, by studying what the equator scientists are doing at the Darwin Breeding Center with tortoises and iguanas, I've learned how to deal with questions my theory about the extinction of dinosaurs raises. It all makes sense that dinosaurs were probably TSD creatures, and that massive global temperature change 65 million years ago resulted in a skewed sex ratio, which led to rapid population decline. But then why did the tortoises and crocodilians survive? Why did the iguana survive? Well, one possible argument is that these animals could change where they lay their eggs according to temperature change so as to adapt to global temperature change and still maintain a 50-50 sex ratio. This could have been due to an increased female-male sex ratio 65 million years ago, which is exactly what the scientists in Ecuador are using in order to get a rapid increase in the population of the giant tortoises and the iguanas that they're using for repopulating the island.